Welcome to the Fly Chain Reaction, a podcast designed to empower healthcare providers like you to master the business side of running a practice. Each episode sparks a chain reaction where actionable insights on financial management, operational efficiency, and growth strategies build upon each other, creating a powerful ripple effect to help your organization thrive. With FlyChain's financial expertise and insights from industry leaders, we'll dive into everything you need to ignite success. Join us and let the FlyChain reaction spark growth in your healthcare business.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FlyChain reaction, where we love to bring together industry experts and leaders that have a proven track record of success and often work with FlyChain to support our shared customers and kind of elevate the conversations in our industry. And it is my pleasure to welcome one such partner in today's discussion, Becky Reel. How are you doing, Becky?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Really excited to chat with you today. And a little background here. I've had the privilege of kind of getting to know Becky over the last year and even went to one of her kind of CEO retreats, summits, and got to see firsthand, how Becky operates and the programming that she puts on. And for me, it was awesome just to sit in a room with, 40 other owners and hear all of their problems, reservations. And I just wanted to kind of give that context here because it's been a pleasure working with you so far. But with that, would love to just learn a little bit more about yourself and the work that you do, what got you into this. And then we can kind of jump into some of the other programming that, we know that you are really excelling at these days. So yeah, Becky, welcome.
You're so nice. Well, thank you. I fell into the home care world by accident, I suppose, like many owners I speak to. But my background is in marketing and sales. I led Fortune 500 teams, product marketing, and was in the corporate world for most of my career. My parents started a home care agency. I'm in the Chicago area after my grandfather, who I call Papa, had a tragic end of life in a nursing home. And so my parents wanted to do something to keep his legacy alive and to give families an alternative to a facility or a nursing home. Neither one of them really had any business background, so I wanted to help them build it up so they could sell it and ultimately have a decent retirement. That was always my why. I thought naively at 2-3 years, I would go in and help a little bit and then sell and go back to corporate. 10 years later, I was still there. We grew about 300% year over year, and we were named the #1 home care agency in North America by Home Care Pulse, which is now Activated Insights. I take that award really seriously because it's not one of those awards that you are nominated for. It was an award that was based off of client and caregiver feedback and ratings that they specifically gave us and ranked among the other thousands of home care agencies that were part of the system. So I take a lot of pride in that. We sold the agency in 23 to private equity. And now we are taking a lot of the best practices and a lot of the mistakes we learned along the way and helping agencies either get started or helping them if they're plateauing and they can't get past, if they're stuck at 500,000 or they can't get to the million mark or 2 million mark, help them have a refresh in how they approach home care and build strategies to help them get to whatever their next steps are.
Amazing. Your journey is obviously one that is kind of a successful endeavor, obviously, and you're imparting a lot of that knowledge to, your customers in the universe. One thing that I wanted to just highlight is you have these, the real principles, right? And I would love to just learn more and dig into that, because when we went over that at that retreat, I found a lot of value in that as someone who is candidly a little bit of an outsider, more from that financial perspective. But yeah, I would love to kind of dig into those because I got a lot out of it. I know our customers that we share get a lot out of this on a continuous basis. And so, yeah, maybe walk through the kind of those principles and we can go a little bit more granular into those.
Yeah, I think that, every agency is unique. And so we really try to have a very customized approach for every single agency we work with. Nothing is going to be copy and paste. But with that being said, I believe there's 5 principles that are really rooted in compassion, strategy, experience overall. But at the end of the day, to me, it's really about an exceptional client and employee experience. Every agency, for the most part, it has the same service lines, right? For the most part, there's some that do different things and do things a little differently, but it's the ADLs are ADLs and home care is home care. And so you have to really be able to differentiate yourself beyond compassionate care, which is what everyone always says. So we bucketed into 5 different categories, and these are ones that we holistically approach with our agencies throughout their tenure with us. We don't go 1 through 5. It kind of just navigates in its own organic way based on where we're at or where the agency's at. And just like running an agency, we have to be able to pivot, right? Because things change very quickly in this industry. So empowered ownership is the first one. And that comes from a place of, as a former agency owner, if you, and I can speak to this all day, every day, this world, this environment will eat you alive if you don't have control, right? If you don't set boundaries for yourself. And that is really important. And if you don't have those processes and policies and confidence to have the right people in the right place, it's going to diminish your entire life, right? And I lived that world for a long time where I could not do anything because I was stuck to my phone all day.
Mm-hmm.
So empowering ownership, that's reclaiming control over your business and your life, that's setting boundaries, setting expectations for your clients, their families, for your caregivers, policies, procedures to hold people accountable and reduce stress, building the right team. So sometimes we even get as involved as interviewing candidates for our client's office to make sure they have somebody else to vet them through and to ask, different specific questions, to make sure you have the right people in the right place and how to delegate. The second pillar is going to be caregiver management. And it's creating a team that feels valued. And this is where I do a lot of my speaking events on. It's really empowering your caregiving team and your office team. But as you hear time and time again, the caregiver shortage is top of mind for so many people. But truth of the matter is, this has been a problem for years, 10 years. When I joined the organization over 10 years ago, there was a caregiver shortage. This isn't a COVID thing. This is something that's existed for a long time. You need to be able to attract and retain caregivers that share that passion and share that same, way of looking at this industry. You need to equip your team with meaningful training and development. Even if you're in a state that doesn't require it, you should still be doing training, because that's going to speak to the caliber of who's on your team. And it's going to just overall, from liability standpoint, from a client satisfaction standpoint, everything, it's really important. And then developing proactive scheduling systems to ensure you're prepared. As we know, call-offs are probably one of the biggest frustrations in this industry, but being proactive and getting ahead of it are things that we really talk to our clients about and work with them on building that strategy. Chime in, Ethan.
Yeah.
I'm talking a lot, so chime in.
Oh no, I love it. It's all valuable insights.
Okay.
Going back to empowered ownership, it does feel like kind of a foundational mindset shift where you have to go in and what we see a lot, especially with those earlier stage home care agencies where it sounds like you were in that boat where you're always attached to your phone, you're doing a million things. And because it is oftentimes like your baby, this is your business, you're in it and you care about it, it's hard to delegate. And so in that empowering ownership, it really feels like delegation is one of those core principles. Do you have some examples or things that you've seen work from an owner who might be a little overworked, overstressed? What do you say to that business owner? Is it, hey, stick to your strengths? Or is it, hey, do we need to hire more people here that I can trust and delegate? So just any examples around that where someone might be feeling a little overwhelmed because aren't delegating, and what are some of those exercises or steps they can take to basically take work off their plate without losing control?
Yeah, I think I'm a control freak. Hands down, I am. My team will attest to that. It was really hard for me to give up control. And it's not that I necessarily didn't trust people. It's just that I like things done a certain way. At some point, I had to surrender and I had to acknowledge that while not everything is going to get done exactly how I would have done it, it's going to get done and it's going to be done well. Again, it might not be exactly how I would have worded it or exactly what I would have done, but it's going to get done. And it allowed me to focus on bigger. I'm a strategy person. I'm not a details person. Kristen on my team is the details person. We're a great team for that. But I needed, as an agency owner, to focus on the strategy and the relationships. And so all of those, the minutia of the day-to-day stuff that my team could take care of, the best advice that I can give somebody is baby steps and incremental changes in order to know that your team's going to be okay doing it, and have checks and balances in place. So, whether it's like a team distribution email where everyone's getting copied. So that way, my big thing is like, I just want to know something got done, right? I don't want to have to micromanage you. I don't want to have to ask. I just want you to manage up to me and say, this was done. So the team distribution email for us was a way to copy in the entire team, myself included, to basically say this was done, but we would use it as like a follow-up mechanism. So hypothetically, there's an update to the schedule, right? Or there was a family meeting or whatever needed to happen. We would send an email communication to the stakeholders, the family and anybody else involved, recapping that conversation, right? And we would position it as, I wanted to recap our conversation to loop in the rest of my team. Really, we were documenting everything and they were letting me know that this was done and making sure that everything was communicated, documented, but then I'm getting copied on it. So that way I don't have to follow up and say, was this done? So I'm really big on managing up and making sure that your team understands what you're expecting out of those tasks. But I mean, it's hard to give up control, especially if you started the agency and you put everything into this. This is your baby. It's really hard, but you can't grow. And I literally just did an Instagram post about this yesterday. I think you're not going to be able to grow if you're the bottleneck.
Yeah.
You just can't.
It's kind of crazy. Like at FlyChain, we're building, not a home care agency, but a lot of the things that you're saying around delegation, like I'll put myself into that camp, wanting things done a certain way and feeling a little, hesitant to turn the keys over to someone. But I love that notion of baby steps and like, hey, I've done this a certain way. You might do it slightly differently, but as long as that outcome is the same and having those checks and balances, it kind of gives you that ability to scale without you having to, do every single thing within the organization.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because it almost does feel like it segues a little into what you were talking about, compassionate caregiver management. So like, you're delegating certain things, but also from, I think, like an operational just challenges standpoint, like human capital management is so critical in this space, and having your caregivers, your office staff, like feel empowered.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually heard there's some softwares out there that, do like rewards and kind of positive reinforcement, maybe bringing some transparency there on that front, because we do realize like the opportunity cost of someone leaving, then you have to hire someone and then train. And that can cause a lot of issues in the organization, from a time waste, a cash waste as well. In the sense of like that specific, compassionate caregiver management, are there any like tactical things that you've implemented that you've seen work? Fully understanding that every business is different. Every business has a corporate org composition that might look different. Is there anything that you've seen in particular work, knowing that this is not a one size fits all solution?
Yeah.
Are there best principles? Are there things that, you do to empower those caregivers so that they feel valued? And I think one of which is, you alluded to, it's like training, like giving them good training should ideally make them want to be more attached to your organization. They felt, taken care of.
They're more confident.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, training is huge, ongoing training, listening to what they, listening is so much more than what we think listening is. I feel listening to what things are not being said is also important a lot of times. But, asking your team what else, like actually asking your team what they're looking for and following through with it, right? Yeah. So I remember our team really wanted to be CPR trained. wasn't a requirement of us. So we partnered with our fire department and we made it happen because I want to be able to, it wasn't going to hurt us. It was only going to make us look better for our clients and give more confidence to the caregivers. So, we're kind of talking about culture.
Yep.
Culture is such a buzzword and it drives me crazy because, it's, culture means so many different things to so many different people in different organizations. But at the end of the day, culture is not once a year holiday party.
Right.
Culture is having an ongoing effort that people want to go to that holiday party. And I've had clients that do a holiday party and no one shows up and they're baffled. And it's like, well, you're not doing this year round. You're not consistently showing your caregivers and your team, I actually care about you. There's other ways I really feel that we can empower our team. A mentorship program is something I really believe in. I saw it firsthand, be really beneficial. You're not only helping a new caregiver feel supported and give them like a buddy to help them through their first 90 days, right? But you're also empowering the person that's mentoring to help them grow, to give them more than just, you want to give them as much confidence and exposure to helping lead. So I love mentorship programs. I love doing ambassador programs. I didn't have a salesperson in my organization. I have mixed feelings about that role. I think you have to do it very carefully if you're going to do a marketing or community liaison role. Our caregivers became our ambassadors and they were incentivized to bring us clients. And we had a whole system, right? They were incentivized to bring us caregivers and to bring us clients. And it happened all the time. But they believed in us and they loved, for the most part, I think that we had a team that really enjoyed working for us because we treated them well, we cared, and they were more than happy to shout from the rooftops about what it was like working for us. I think, I love recommending town halls for agencies. As an owner, as you grow, you have less and less insight to what's happening and less face time with your caregivers. But if you can show up once a quarter, twice a year on a town hall, whether it's Zoom or in person, and use it as a forum to talk to your team. Yeah. What's going well? What's not going well? Let's talk about it as a team and really open that up to, again, listen with intent. Your team's just going to be more engaged. It's really about letting your team know that if they want to be more than a caregiver, they can be more than a caregiver. Yeah. Some of our best ideas came from our caregivers. Last thing I'll mention on this is also building out a growth opportunities from day one with your caregivers. I've had agencies in the past question me on that and not understand why are you talking to them about growth opportunities during that initial interview? Well, the caregivers are interviewing for multiple agencies at one time.
Right.
We know that they're going to go with the agency that A is going to get them work the fastest and B, they feel that connection to and that alliance to. So if you can't get them work on day one, at least start to build that relationship and let them know that there is a lot of opportunity, whether it's a head caregiver, lead caregiver, office opportunity, management role, whatever. Like understand what their goals are. That might not be their goal. They might want to be working their way towards nursing school.
Right.
Cool. We want to help support you through that journey. If they know that support is there and they truly feel it, there might be an expiration date, right? Because they're going to graduate and go do their nursing job. But I guarantee you, while they're with you, you're going to get stellar work done. And even after they leave, you're going to have an ambassador and an advocate for you. So, it's about a longer term strategy versus just, consistently always just hiring bodies, which, we see all the time.
Yeah, I love that. A few things that I certainly heard there too is we think about so many things from that sort of like financial impact and like that opportunity cost of not investing. And even to use that example, maybe they do want to go and to nursing school at some point, and it's 2 years from now. But investing in those 2 years versus having maybe not the right culture and they leave after 9 months, which we kind of see as like one of like sort of the average duration tenor of a lot of these folks, that by just investing, knowing that they're going to leave in 2 years is actually from a return on investment standpoint, like way, way, way higher. And I think a lot of folks, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit, you touched on it, like with things like town halls, but in our world, culture is difficult to build because oftentimes you don't see your employees. Like at FlyChain, we all sit in this office and we're all here 5 days a week, like hanging out and talking and strategizing. And there almost is that constant feedback loop by just the very nature of we sitting in this office. Beyond like a town hall or anything like that, like what are some ways to engage more, of a candidly kind of more of like a distributed workforce to a certain extent?
So I think it's really important to have different communication channels. Like you mentioned, a lot of those reward programs have tools that can help keep you connected, or mobile apps that will help keep people connected. Even just like a private Facebook group can go a long way, because just as you mentioned, a lot of times they're working with a client. They are very isolated from the rest of the office, from the rest of their team. And so ways that you can bridge that gap. That's one of the reasons. So I do these dinner series, and that's one of the reasons I do them, is because there is this isolation in this industry. And I felt it. I felt it as an owner, right? And as an owner, you're constantly caring for your clients, your caregivers, their families, your own family. And then as an owner, you're like, well, who's taking care of me? Who can I go to when I need to cry and vent? Right. And as an independent agency, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And so I longed for that community. And so that's why we started these dinner series. They're very intimate dinners where I almost am positioning them as support groups for agency owners, because that's what they end up being. I mean, people cry and hug, and it's so beautiful. But building a community, right, is going to be key, no matter how you do it or who you utilize. Sometimes it even means that the owner or people up there need to dedicate some time once a month to pick up the phone, which I know we don't like to do. Pick up the phone and check in with your team, because the feedback we also see day in, day out is that caregivers feel like they only get called or communicated to when the agency needs something, when it's a scheduling thing. So you want to really prove out that this isn't a one-sided relationship.
We don't tap you on the shoulder like when we need something from you. And then you're now viewed more like a commodity versus part of the family, if you will.
Over and over again. Yeah. Do you want me to go into the other?
Yeah. We, I know we're not short on time, but we want to get all the information in here. So yeah, I know this one actually speaks a lot to like FlyChain, and I think how we can work and have worked together. Oh, also plug beforehand, you mentioned the dinner series. Anyone listening that has an opportunity to go, you should absolutely go to these dinner series. They're awesome. You get really candid feedback. And as you mentioned, like I'll say the same thing, building FlyChain, it's a lonely journey, especially in those early days when you're kind of like island. So that like we have support systems here with other founders and our investors, et cetera. So I just wanted to plug that if you have the opportunity to go, absolutely, try and attend one of those, and we can send some stuff afterwards to show what that, the scheduling looks like. But now, next topic, which is very near and dear to our hearts here, seamless process and systems, and kind of talking about that. And this was a big topic at the retreat that I attended. So yeah, maybe if you could spend a little bit of time talking about that, what are those necessary processes, things that need to get put in place?
Seamless process and systems. This is going to be key for any business, right? But as we know, in the home care world, we're being pulled in a million different directions. Having these processes and systems are so important to make sure, especially as we talk about the delegation, like you have your systems, it's easy to delegate. It's very easy to set those expectations. But, and again, it's different for every agency, but I try to simplify it. I try to look at if it's a current agency, we look at what they're doing. We look at first thing I do typically is I look at their P&L to see where are their redundancies? Where are there opportunities to increase efficiencies, right? But then we use that information to help build out some different systems. How do we improve communication, not only with your caregivers, but your clients and their families, and referral systems? Automation of scheduling, right? As much as you can. AI is amazing. Couldn't do my job without it. However, there are some elements of this business that AI, I just don't think is ever going to fully take away. Right. And, there are ways to use AI to automate scheduling and reduce stress, stay ahead of things. However, I still think there needs to be a personal touch. We're taking care of people, vulnerable people. It's important that there's still a personal element and a personal element when it comes to the communication of any schedule changes. And then also develop more of a process for hiring and onboarding. That is the first time that a potential caregiver is going to meet you. And that is the time to build that connection. And you need to stay on top of that. You need to show them why you're different, why they should want to come work with you. And if you have that really built into your systems, it's not that much work, right? The next one is more of, it's growth. Everyone comes to us because they want to grow, right? They're getting started. They want to grow revenue. Underneath all of that growth, there's all of these other things we have to look at.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You can't just come to us and say, I want to grow $1 million in revenue. Cool. There's a lot of things we have to do for that to happen. But it's our job to help really define what that vision is going to look like. We need to understand the competition. We need to do a competitive intel study to understand, make sure you're pricing yourself within the market. If you want to be the lower end volume play versus if you want to be the high end agency, which means you're going to charge more, but you have more of that elevated approach. We need to understand who you are as an agency in order to grow. Right. And we need to understand too, like if we're planning on an exit strategy, and I went through this myself, right? But when you're going to sell, you need, I usually say 3 to 5 years of positive growth data. In order
at the very least, just 3 years of financials first is what we see. And you're talking about P&L. You'd be surprised. We walk into so many of these businesses that they've been flying blind. And for us, it's how do you determine what the holes in the bucket are when you don't have anything to measure against? And that's why we love working, together here, because we'll button up the data and then, okay, now we actually know where we stand. If you're positive for growth, do you have money in your bank account? Do you know what amount of money would be required to hire more people? And what's the break even there? And can you do that without getting too over your skis and everything? And so these businesses tend to be I call them almost like amoebas or amorphous entities, where you have patients, employees, that's always ebbing and flowing. You've got billing data sometimes if you're doing insurance, and you've got your practice management scheduling. It's just it feels like it's herding cats and setting up the right systems in place. You're still probably gonna have to do a little bit of the herding, but generally speaking, we see putting the right systems, processes in place, both from a technical vendor stack, but also it's how you use those vendors as well. And that's what I'm saying too, is AI is not going to be the end all be all and solve every solution here, because every business is different, might have different systems. And you kind of have to probably walk in first, do that assessment to see where do we stand? What do we need to improve so that we can then actually have an opinion on how to get to that next level?
Exactly. And especially if you're going to, first question is, I'll usually ask what's your, what's your annual revenue and what's your margins? And sometimes people don't know any of those answers. And so I'll say I know typically the ones that have their financial stuff in order. But it's my job when you do go to sell, that is a whole nother job, right? So you need to start preparing and make sure that you are fully maximizing the systems you have and that your accounting is correct. And that's where you guys come in, right? And I really love what you do for agencies in this industry, but I'm telling you, if you go to sell and your books are a mess, you're going to be in for quite the nightmare. And, and so that's really important. It's important whether or not you're just getting started or whether you're planning an exit strategy. It's all important to make sure that you understand the numbers behind your business, right?
100%. And we always like to say too, it's not something you do once a quarter. Not something you do once a year. This should be not even maybe once a month. This should be as frequently. You can set up the systems in a way to track things so you can respond to, issues in real time versus not being aware of an issue that might have plagued your business for the last 3 months. And if you had the right mechanisms to track it, you can identify those things and actually be proactive, best offense being a good kind of defense here. And it all starts with understanding your biz, your organization, your numbers, and then how to effectively optimize those numbers.
Well, that's why we look at the redundancies. If they have multiple systems that kind of do the same thing right off the bat, I can be well, we don't need both of these, right? So we can look at your bottom line and we can right away find ways to have you be more profitable right off the bat. That's like the easiest thing to do, right? So, that's something we talk to. That's kind of the first like few weeks of us working with an agency. We're trying to understand the foundation and understand ways that we can help you be profitable without having to actually do anything. And sometimes it's as easy as like, well, we did your market research and you're actually under market value by a significant amount. So we have to do rate increases right there, right? There's a way to increase revenue. And then that brings me to our fifth pillar, which is going to be the exceptional client experience. And something that if you've listened to me in any capacity talk, you know that this is fundamentally when people ask me how we grew so much. I wish I had this like profound answer. I don't. Our answer was we really focused on investing back into our team and providing the most superior experience. So we tried to treat our agency and look at our agency more as a hospitality agency more than home care.
Yeah.
Of course, we did home care, but we went above and beyond. We focused on setting expectations, being very clear, going above, just doing things that were unexpected, not only for the clients, but for our caregivers. And to me, caregivers are internal customers, right?
100%.
So your team is. So this was my job at the agency. I believed that every client, I didn't care if you were with us 1 day a week or 24/7, every single client deserved the same level of customer service. And so did our caregivers. So I believe that you create a client journey that's going to reflect that commitment to excellence, right? And you can say that till you're blue in the face, but unless you're actually doing it, it doesn't matter. Communication is, to me, I think, what people fail to remember is that clients and their family members are not often in the right mind space, right? They're dealing with a decline of a loved one. They're balancing family, heavy stuff, right? A lot of times the agency becomes, the one that they're taking their frustration out or their anger out or their sadness out on. And it was our job to make sure they felt supported and make sure they understood what was next in terms of, they haven't been through this, right? Most likely they have not been through this. And if they have, it's not a lot, right? So your job as an agency is to help set those expectations and to have impeccable communication. So, before you even get started with services, here's, you're going to have a call to walk through, make sure they don't have any questions, and you're going to walk through the care plan, and you're going to follow up with an email to recap the most important pieces that you want to make sure are really coming across. Update them. There shouldn't be any like, I don't know who's coming and I don't know what's next. Your job is to hopefully walk them through what to expect. But a lot of that comes from communication and setting expectations. And then, the last piece of this is really matching the caregivers with the clients effectively. But again, not just who AI says you should be matching. You should be matching based on different pieces of skill sets, personality, where the caregiver lives, the schedule,
language.
So many variables, right? It's not just who's available. Right. And that's the misconception that a lot of clients have coming into this is they think caregivers are just kind of waiting in a room with, reading books, waiting to be called to go to work. And that's just not how it works. Your job as an agency owner or manager, wherever you are, is to help set those expectations, set the stage. It's going to make the whole system a lot more smooth. It's not, I say this at all of my events, like it's not rocket science. It's about anticipating needs and getting ahead of it and just treating people with respect.
Yeah, I love this so much. And like one through line I heard there is that's almost maybe the most important pillar from our humble perspective, quality of care and patient engagement, staff engagement, because think of a lot of the challenges like getting referrals, getting new patients, hiring the right people for your organization. We see reputation and that hands-on approach as being what I would call like the biggest double-edged sword I've seen in an industry where it's if you do right by people, they will preach on the mountaintops, whether that's your own employees bringing in patients because they care or your other patients, it's community-driven care. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. What that means is everybody talks. And if you're giving a wonderful experience, we see there's actually like an exponential ripple effect there where you're doing that, just investing more time in the quality will actually benefit, and you won't have to spend more time like, marketing to find patients, et cetera. Double-edged sword though, not doing that, they're going to talk, and that could like really sink certain revenue streams, sink certain referral sources, get a bad reputation on, some online sites that are rating your industry. And so we see that firsthand at FlyChain, despite us dealing with like owners that, we're not delivering care ourselves, but it's the same thing. Owners talk. And so we also try and approach that with that kind of like level of empathy, understanding it's not easy. We're going to handle like this part, free up some time to handle this, because we know that is such mission critical things that you need to do that we have no business doing. But it's been, it's honestly, Becky, like been a joy, just like working with you and candidly learning from you. I after that retreat that I went to, I came back feeling like maybe like I could start a home care agency because I was enthused.
I'll help you. And I know we're running a long time, but to your point, like one of my favorite stories is, I believe in doing the right thing, right? And I think the money will come. But and again, it's a long-term strategy. If you're looking purely at what's in front of you from a financial standpoint, you're going to be hurting yourself in the long run. We had a client that the daughter was out of state. And so her dad was in the hospital coming home on hospice. It was like weeks of kind of like false starts, right? He's going to come home. Oh, wait, no, he's, going to be in the hospital for a few more days, and kind of just like a long journey of getting everything going. And so, caregivers are ready for 24/7 for hospice. Oh, wait, never mind. He's not ready yet. And so this was, a thing we were working on for a while. Dad is finally coming home. We had 24/7 lined up with all of, our caregivers. Everyone was ready to go. We spent a lot of time putting this together. He passed away in transit from the hospital to his home. And I remember the daughter calling us and telling, and our response, she said, just send me an invoice, let me know what we owe you. And our response was, you owe us nothing. We're so sorry about your dad. Go spend time with your family.
Yeah.
For lack of better words.
Yeah.
She wrote us the nicest review online, and it's still on there. And I'm actually writing a book right now, and that I put that like this review was so impactful that I actually put this review in my book because it was an example of you put yourself in the shoes of the family. And yes, this is a business. We're not running a nonprofit. Like there's reasons why you would still bill somebody in certain situations, but in this situation, her dad died. I did not feel right charging her, even though we still paid our caregivers, right? We lost money, but I did not feel right charging her anything. And the review was so kind. It was very emotional. It said, these people, meaning us, would not accept a penny from us. And we got so many clients because of that one review. These potential clients referenced that exact review. I can't even tell you how many times. So that's just an example of you do the right thing, it pays off. And that paid off for us. And that wasn't why we did it, but I knew that was the right thing to do.
Yep.
And so I firmly believe that, online reputation is so critical. You are going to get word of mouth referrals, but then there's a whole different segment of people that don't have a referral source. And so those are the ones that are Googling. They're going on Yelp, they're going on Google. And so we do need they're going on Facebook and Instagram to understand your culture. And so that's a big part of this. And it's a piece that agencies, if they don't have that business background, they don't think about. And that's where we come in.
Yeah, it's a people business first and foremost. And the second you lose sight of that to improve your margin, while you might improve your margin that next month because you voice that patient, like that ripple effect, that, perspective from that outside world on your business should be everything from that business owner's mindset, and doing the things that might not seem maybe commercially logical, but the right thing to do will have a better commercial outcome. I love that story, Becky, and thanks for sharing.
I know I feel always bad. It's, obviously it's my favorite story. I feel bad that someone passed, but it's still, it really,
of course,
it represented who we were at our core. But it's a good story to help illustrate the power of online reputation, the power of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Becky, this has been very informative. I appreciate your time. Any closing remarks you'd like to share? Otherwise, we'll share all your contact info. Go to Becky's dinners, go to her, summits. She's been truly a pretty awesome partner and presence in this space, and we couldn't think more highly of you.
Oh, thanks, Ethan.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you around, Becky. And again, appreciate you joining. And that wraps up yet another episode of the Fly Chain Reaction.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Take care, Becky.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fly Chain Reaction. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, feel free to contact us at info@flychain.us or schedule a demo through our website at www.flychain.us. See you next time!